Welcome to episode 32 of the Sportscast podcast. This week we will look back at 2023 World of Sport and have a little bit of a look at next year's seasons.
Gentlemen, it's New Year's Eve, 2023, almost over.
It's flown by.
Absolutely flown by. We've had an absolute year packed full of sport, some pretty big events, some pretty awesome sporting moments, and I think it's going to be pretty good to wrap it up with you guys over the next sort of half an hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's when you look back at the year and you've had Rugby World Cup, there's been a lot of boxing. You've had obviously the Formula One, which it probably hasn't been one of the exciting times, and then you've had probably one of the most exciting football seasons come to a conclusion that we've seen in many a year. I think we're just missing a footballing World Cup European tournament, and I think you've had a Cricket World Cup, you've had some fantastic golf and tennis majors going on. It's an Olympics or a footballing tournament would have topped it off, I reckon.
To be fair, the women did get through to the World Cup final, but they lost to Spain.
Yes, but it doesn't quite draw the attention that we get.
It doesn't, unfortunately. But we have got Euros to look forward to next year. Have we got Euros to look forward to next year? Isn't it?
We have, yes.
Yes, fantastic.
Is it Germany, I believe?
I think so, yeah. Or is it three countries that are sharing?
I think Germany's one of them. I think they're the sort of main.
Yeah,
I could be very, very wrong. So,
where should we start?
Should we start with rugby being one of the more recent World Cup?
Yeah. Do you know what? I didn't really watch rugby much before, but to be honest with you, I don't watch rugby anyway, but I watched the World Cup just because it was the event. And I think it probably was the biggest event of the year. Not necessarily in the world. I think the Cricket World Cup with the viewing numbers that India pull in, but I really, really enjoyed watching the Rugby World Cup. It's fantastic.
James, did you?
Yeah, Hi guys, you're right. I did enjoy the Rugby World Cup. It was there was some good results in that, with South Africa beating New Zealand in the final, and some very close games. But it was entertaining throughout. I don't think there was a game that wasn't very entertaining. It had everything really. I think it was great, really.
I think so. Like you say, South Africa. Obviously, they won. They lost to Ireland in the group stage, 13-8, but they beat France, England, and New Zealand in the sort of knockout stages. All three of them games, they only won by a singular point in each game.
Yeah, they did. And against England, it was something like the 75th minute.
Yeah, Pollard slipped a penalty over.
Yeah.
So they did the same against France. They were out against New Zealand, so it didn't have the same effect. But yeah, so like James says, South Africa really sort of took it to them. Ireland won the Six Nations earlier on in the year, which is coming around again in 7 weeks. I think they will be favourites for that. Them and France again. So
Grand Slam, weren't they? Ireland this year.
Yeah, and they had a fantastic game with France on the opening night. Well, I think it was the second game of the World Cup. So can't wait to see that again. Sale Sharks won the Premiership, who are currently top of the Premiership again, and La Rochelle beat Leinster 29-28 in the European Cup final. Now, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to have this correct, but I'm 90% sure it was 28-0 at half time to Leinster, and La Rochelle came back and scored 29 points in the second half to win 29-28.
Decent half time talk from the manager.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that was a repeat of last year's final, and James will know Ronan O'Gara, who's the Leinster manager, and he was given at the big one last year, and he started giving it the big one again this time round at half time, and then conceded 29 points in second half. So fantastic player, a lot to be desired for. I mean, he's done fantastically well with them, but yeah, he's looked a bit silly. So. But yeah, Six Nations come round. Ireland and France favourites. I'd take fourth place now for Wales. I think I'm not, England third, Wales fourth. Wouldn't.
I don't even think Wales will get fourth. Truth be told,
it's a stretch, but it's as far I'll that's why I'd take fourth. I'm not gonna grumble if we sneak a third place, if we beat England. I don't know where our fixtures are. I think we are at
Twickenham against England, don't we?
Oh, we are right then. Yeah, maybe not. Then I'll take fourth. So yeah. But what about some of the other tennis? It was a big year for tennis. Only two winners of the majors this year.
Carlos Alvarez and Djokovic, is it?
Djokovic, yeah, they're the only two guys to win a major.
It was a Djokovic Alcaraz final at Wimbledon, and so potentially Djokovic could have taken the
all four,
but no, yeah. It's it was great to see Alcaraz win Wimbledon. Obviously, we've seen the departure of the Venus sisters, and we've seen the departure of Federer and Nadal earlier on, and obviously Novak Djokovic has been so dominant for so many since about 2017, 19, something like that.
Yeah,
to see now Carlos Alcaraz coming out and winning Wimbledon is great, but then again, Djokovic has won the other three. So are we going to see a more even 2024, or is it just going to go back to kind of a Djokovic?
Well, yes, no. But let's not forget as well, Alcaraz is only 21 and Djokovic is 38, 39, 40 maybe.
True.
So in 2 or 3 years' time, we're only going to have Alcaraz. So I think let's just enjoy it while we've got it, because I can't see anyone that's going to really push him. He's going to win a couple of majors every year.
We do this every time there's an up and coming star, so to speak, within anything. We big them up, and they never come through. I mean, you look at in regards to tennis, that what's her name, Emma Raducanu.
Yeah,
I mean, she got a win in 2021 at the US Open.
Yeah,
and since has done jack shit. And we put them all up on these pedestals, and yet they never come through. And hopefully, it doesn't happen with Alcaraz, hopefully, because it's tennis is very much like Formula One and things like that, where it's always Djokovic. Now and again, Nadal will pop up, but hopefully, like you said, Liam, he is young, and we've got years of having something different.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the Raducanu. I know she's had a few injuries and stuff, hasn't she? And Jordan knows sort of better than me with that, but I know she's switching coaches again. I think that's been a problem. But
yeah,
I think we're safe with Alcaraz. I think he is the deal.
Yeah.
I
mean, we're doing it in the darts at the minute, aren't we? With that young lad who claims to be 16, and he probably is 16. Is it just me, or does the guy look fucking 35 years old? You know what I mean?
It'll be funny. In like I never know when it was. When Barack Obama first ran, there was like 200 million people demanding to see a birth certificate. Yet Luke Litter rocks up on the PDC World Championship claiming to be 16. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no chance.
I mean, the guy's got a beer belly. He's got a set of man boobs on him. He's got a bloody beard. He's
full-grown beard. Yeah.
I mean, 16. That's a bit far-fetched. Mind you, he does want to use his winnings to take his mates to Alton Towers. So I mean, that'll be a
fair play. 35 grand would at minimum 35 grand provided he gets through.
I'm 35, and I think if I won that money, I think I'd take my mates to Alton Towers though.
Yeah. I won't take my family. I'll take my mates.
Yeah. What did much happen in the golfing world this year, James?
Well, you had that live Um,
The Live Tour. Jordan's a
Live
big fan of
Tour.
Live Tour.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't really mind it, to be fair. I mean, there was a lot of uproar with it all, and people, it's disgraceful that people are jumping from here to go there because that's where the money is. But we've said it over the last few podcasts that if someone come up and said, "Yeah, we're going to pay you triple the money to do exactly what you're doing," you'd be a fool not to, and go for it.
Do you know what though? It's the Live, and I know we've talked a lot about Saudi Arabia taking over the world, or the Middle East kind of taking over the world of just buying everything. But do you know what? The when the Live first came out, there was uproar, and then 8 months later, the PGA was talking about merging or kind of having a co-tour, and the uproar around, I can't remember when it was, maybe 3 years ago, when they pitched the Super League for non-relegatable Super League for like Barcelona, Manchester United, etc. That's been relaunched last week with a completely overhauled idea, and the company behind it, something like A24 is the name of the media company that's kind of trying to pitch it. They've repitched it, and apparently it won't interfere with domestic leagues. It won't be any. There will be relegation and there will be promotion to it and stuff like that. So there's uproar around Live, but then we got over it, and there was uproar about the Super League, and we got over that as well.
Do you think if it was any other country other than Saudi Arabia, that there'd be that much hoo-ha about it? Now, we're all, as football fans as well, we always go, over the years we've given it, Man United, they this, they're that, Fergie time. But in fact, we're all just jealous and pissed off that they were winning everything. It's the same with Saudi Arabia. They've got the money, they've got the resources, they're doing it. But are people not just pissed off that they're trying to take the shine from other people? And I don't see an issue with Saudi Arabia wanting to promote things and get things going. And surely that's probably going to be better for sport as a whole, really, getting more people interested in it.
Yeah, no, good for them.
I think the problem with that is everything that was kicking off leading up to the World Cup.
It's all the political side of things, isn't it? But I mean, there's other countries out there that are not too dissimilar in the beliefs that they hold in Saudi Arabia. But whenever there's the African Cup of Nations, no one kick up a stink that Rwanda's in it, yet they throw homosexuals to death. You know what I mean? So it's kind of tit for tat, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. We also did see the Ryder Cup this year in Italy.
It was a good one.
Yeah, very good. Always nice to see the Europe win with Fleetwood sinking that putt as well, which is always nice. Yeah, it's been a good year for golf, and like you say, I'm not a Live fan. I like my snooker, I like my Test cricket, golf's golf, So, but I can see why people go to it, a 3-day game and not a 4-day game, so you're getting more money for 75% of the work. So it's not even 3 times the money for the same job, it's 3 times the money for less work. So I do get it. I'm just not a fan of it. But talking to Saudi Arabia, boxing has had a big push over there.
It has had a big push. I've noticed the last few bouts, including obviously the most recent one, all Saudi Arabia. And is it Eddie Hearn must be earning a
fortune?
Don't know the catch.
He must have gone from tens of millions to a few tens of millions more a year.
Definitely. Just in kind of, not bribes. Bribes is the wrong word because he's the promoter, but would you like to host your boxing event in Birmingham, or would you like to hold you in Qatar?
Yeah, that's literally it. That is what has happened. It stemmed from the Anthony Joshua rematch after he lost to Andy Ruiz in Brooklyn. He went out to it was in Brooklyn, or was it in Madison Square? I think it was in Madison Square. And then the rematch over in Saudi Arabia, and that's sort of where it started, which he did win last week against Wallin in the 5th round. On the same card, Deontay Wilder lost on points to a very impressive Joseph Parker, which throws the Fury got pushed by Ngannou, the UFC fighter, in Saudi Arabia a few months earlier. So it does leave the boxing division very wide open. I mean, it's all going to be fought out there. You know, these big boys are going to fight out there for the next few years now. So we're not going to see anything big over here. But
do you know what? From a time zone point of view, though, it's pretty decent because I think they like the undercard starts at like 5 p.m. and the actual main event like 10, half 10 at night. And time. I remember
it's better than having it in Las Vegas where the main event is at 3-4
o'clock.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think I stayed up for the Mayweather Pacquiao fight all them years ago, and I'm pretty sure the ring walks were at like 5:25 in the morning.
Yeah, same with McGregor.
Yeah, exactly. But this year, the boxing, you've had Zhang beat Joe Joyce, Dubois beat Miller last week in Saudi Arabia on the undercard. There was like 8 seconds to go, and the ref stopped it. People had Miller up as well, so that is a way to win. You've had 2 big fights in the middleweights with Liam Smith and Chris Eubank Jr. in January, where Smith beat him very early, and then Eubank beat him, or avenges the loss in September. Canelo outclassed John Ryder, and Crawford beat Spence, which in boxing, in boxing terms, is Messi versus Ronaldo. Crawford Spence. It is the 2 pound for pound best fighters in the world, which I think will be a rematch this year. So there's a lot to look forward to in boxing. I just don't see much happening with Fury poised to fight Usyk. Wilder lost to Parker, so AJ will probably still fight Wilder, but if he's lost to Parker, there's not really much pull on that fight anymore. So heavyweight division's gone a little bit backwards this year, unfortunately. F1. Gets spoken about a lot. It's been an interesting-ish year.
Yeah, interesting-ish. I was going to say, it has been an enjoyable season. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy every Formula 1 season, of course, but it's been a Max Verstappen absolute domination, followed by Sergio Perez kind of second place. But we have still seen some really great racing. We have seen some really, really impressive driving from Oscar Piastri, of which I am obviously a huge fan. Driving for McLaren turning it around. The excitement that we all had at the beginning of the season, where Aston Martin started off like a greyhound and then fell back throughout the season. I think we've all kind of forgotten about Aston Martin being so dominant, but it has been great. Would I like to see the same in 2024? No, I wouldn't.
So just quickly there, I'm curious because James knows a little bit about Formula 1. He's not very. I think the last race that he watched was the first Singapore Grand Prix with me all them years ago when we had a barbecue. But what's your as a fly on the wall, and there's a big thing with getting more fans into Formula 1. You've just seen a year where drivers won 19 out of 22
19 out of 22, correct. Perez got 2 and then Ferrari got the other one. Yes.
Yeah. Would it interest you to see to want to watch the sport? That kind of domination.
No, for me, like you said, I'm not a massive Formula 1 fan. I don't know a great deal about it. But what does put me off from watching it is the predictability of it all. And I don't think that's ever. You're not going to have massive changes within Formula 1 that's going to make it a level playing field. You're always going to have the richest teams that have got the biggest budget, creating the best cars, the fastest cars, and it don't matter who the driver is. And we can. I mean, there is a lot of argument to say that the best driver would need to drive the best car because of their ability. But I don't, you could stick Lando Norris in Max Verstappen's car and he'd still have a shout. You know what I mean? It's. I would like to see more from Charles Leclerc and that Lando Norris.
So would about 15 million Italians.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see, to make it interesting. I would like to see it somebody other than Max Verstappen just dominate, because it does get predictable. You can sit there and watch a race for an hour and a half, and before the flag has dropped who's going to win.
Yeah,
and the thing is, like the Premier League this year, you've got Villa sat up there, Man City had dropped out. Arsenal have dropped points in the last few games. Sorry, I was going to come back to that, but it's not. Yes, you've got your Man Cities, your Liverpools that are the rich teams, but they still beat each other. They still, we're just not seeing that in Formula One. And
No.
like Jordan says, the first few races of the year, Red Bull, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Mercedes, and as it went on, Aston Martin dropped down, McLaren came up. But realistically, that is what we saw for the season.
The thing is that the top 4 teams have roughly 3,500 employees each. Okay. And the way that Formula One is set up is there is technical regulations, and the technical regulations is a spectrum. You can have your side pods this wide, or you can have it this narrow, and it's on a slider, and you pick, and whatever you pick, it makes your car go zoom or not. If the FIA came out and said every car has to be identical, completely identical, and it is on driver merit only, they may as well sack 95% of all of those people, because actually the joy of Formula One for a real fan who does follow on Twitter, formerly Twitter, and Facebook and TikTok and using, it's the development of the cars, and it's like the silly season when that was about entries and even Drive to Survive. It's about the whole thing. It's a whole package. It's not just who's fastest on race day, although that is the most important thing. For me, it is an entire story that's told out right back from the factory all the way through until the racetrack and the checkered flag.
Yeah, no, I get that. I do get that. I mean, it was in that Brawn documentary, wasn't it, when there was a double diffuser or something, or
yeah.
So I mean, no one else had thought of that, and they saw a loophole and they went with it. And I mean, look how well that team done that season. All them seasons. I get there's a whole story behind it. I get that there's a lot going on other than what you see on race day, but ultimately, that's all that a majority. I mean, you've got your hardcore fans like yourself, Jordan, that do follow everything, and but a majority of the people watch race day.
Yeah,
and it is just
I see 2 more years. 2025 on the current set of regulations, i.e. specifications. And then we move into a new era, so a new technical regulation by 26. Don't ask me what they are. Don't ask me what the changes are. Assuming something to do with the engines and becoming more kind of
electronic based.
Electrical energy.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this electric thing up, Jordan. Especially with yourself. What are your thoughts on Formula E?
Honestly, it is diabolical. I'd rather watch the W Series.
Really?
Honestly, it is terrible. It is not motor racing. It is. Well, no, I stand by what I say. I don't know whether I sound like a knob or not. It is not motor racing. Like the way that they manage their batteries and they have to deploy at certain times. It throws kind of a little bit of similarity to Formula One, but that is where the similarities end. It is not exciting. It doesn't bring in cash. They should scrap it, and then it should be in Formula One.
And it should just not be street races. I do not get this fixation around street races.
No, exactly. But then again, you can't have a Formula E car flat out round Silverstone up the hill, heavy braking into Copse and then Rascasse, and it's an impossible thing for a Formula E car with the current technology to be able to do.
Which is why.
But who wants to watch it?
It's not racing.
Exactly.
Nobody. So really quickly, over in America, Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, which is their second in 4 years. The favourites again this year. They probably will. Las Vegas Knights got their maiden Stanley Cup win after only being a team for 6 years.
Really impressive. I went to watch one of their first games in Las Vegas, and there was hardly anybody in the crowd.
Well, they've never had anything. Now they've got like Oakland Raiders, the American football team, but they were always based around the area and they already had a fan base. This was if a new team just popped up in the Premier League, who's going to support them? Because everyone already supports a team. Yeah.
And you tell me, Liam, you know a lot more than I do about American sports, but it's not necessarily there's not a third, fourth, fifth division of ice hockey.
You have like your feeder clubs, but you have you still have it around college games where
Yeah,
same with American
sure.
football. It's bigger than the actual NFL. It's bigger than the NHL and things like that. But you still have an interest in the. So I know the Pittsburgh Penguins. Their feeder teams are Scranton Penguins. So they get picked up from local colleges. They go play at Scranton Penguins for a couple of years and then feed into the first team. So even if you support the Scranton Penguins, you're still a fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know, that's the road you take. So it'd be like playing Man United reserve, or they're not reserves anymore, they're under 23s, and then into the first team. You support. You still have a team that goes up the chain, but it's not a Doncaster Rovers playing League Two and Rotherham are in the League. What they are the same.
Yeah,
they're not the same franchise, but they are. Yeah.
And
I mean, going a bit off piece with it all, we kind of all have opinions on American sports, whether it is NHL, baseball, football, whatever. But you've got to take your hats off to those players, because I mean NHL and the NBL, the baseball, they're playing five nights out of 7, for months on end. They're playing, 100 games a season, and yet you've got our prima donnas that are complaining they're tired after 90 minutes. So you've got to, especially NHL, not so much baseball, but I mean especially ice hockey. That's not an easy game. That is tiring. That is exhausting. That is brutal.
Same with basketball. I think it's 100 and if you go the full way, I think you can be playing 120 something games a season. And they don't play it over 9 months, 10 months like our lot. They play it, over a 6 month period. So
yeah,
it is amazing.
Just to circle back to a conversation we were having a couple of weeks ago. Remind me, there was a baseball player that had signed a ridiculous contract.
Yeah.
What was that? Can you remember the figures?
Was it 700 million?
Yeah,
700 million over something like 13 years.
So I saw this. I saw a follow up to it, and I don't know how true it is. I don't know whether you'd seen anything, but apparently it's not 700 million divided by 10 years.
No, it's not. He's done quite a separate thing. So I think he's done 40 million up front, which is very common on these contracts. And then it's like his first couple of years is like 30 million a season, then it's 35 million, and then it's 42 million.
Oh, that's weird. That's not what I'd seen. Maybe it's different. But what I saw was it was taking like a small salary, like $5 million a year. But then at the end of his 10 years, providing he sticks with that team for 10 years and sees the contract through, then he gets a big lump sum of $500 million or whatever. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I don't know,
but you're right. You're right. It's not a set amount.
I think 2023
guaranteed, and then
I think 2023 we've seen a lot of change. And we've spoke about a few different contracts. We've got Messi and Inter Milan and owning part of the team and Apple TV rights and stuff like that. And then you've got Ronaldo and people going over to Saudi Arabia to play for ridiculous money. So contracts aren't kind of they're
not linear.
No, exactly. They used to be.
I'll give you this amount printed on, isn't it, nowadays? You know what I mean? It's a player will sign a contract for 5 years for £350,000 a week or whatnot, and he'll score a goal and he'll go around kissing the badge, giving it Billy Big Spuds. And the minute the manager says you were shit, pull your socks up, all of a sudden he hates the club, he wants out, so contracts now don't mean squat, really, do they?
Especially when they can sack managers and just pay them off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest frustrations in football, that when a team is, well, any sport really, when a team is playing bad and they're not doing things, they're so quick to sack the manager. Whereas if you said to I think it was Barry Fry, probably 20, 30 odd years ago, when he had Peterborough or something or other, they play shit, they weren't good, and he basically walked into the changing room after the game and said, right, none of you lot getting paid. You're crap. I ain't paying you.
I wonder if Ten Hag's going to do that with the delinquents at Man United, because he's lost.
Man United will do what Man United do. They'll chin off Ten Hag. They'll bring in somebody else, and they'll keep the.
He's lost the team, he's lost the team, and to me, they're not a team. They don't behave like a team. They just behave like a lot of delinquent children. And
absolutely,
the best managers, Pep, they inspire a greatness achieving as a team rather than individual glory.
Yeah.
And in vanity, like vanity is a massive part of today's society. Obviously, I've got Louis Vuitton. Well, I've got Prada. Well, I've got Gucci. Well, these guys drive. Footballers always drive nice cars, but they're so vulgar with everything. Like the Man United guys just seem vulgar with everything. They don't seem like there for the football. They seem to be there for the paycheck to then buy the lifestyle that everybody desires. I don't know. Maybe it's just going completely off piece, but there you go.
Manchester United players did used to play for the team, and they weren't vulgar. They did used to play for the manager, when you had Sir Alex in there. But it seems that over the last 5-6 years, it's just do you know what? I'm going to go to a team like Man U, take the paycheck, get the nice car, sleep with a load of women, happy days,
Well, I think as well, and this is purely speculation at the minute, but Newcastle's been on a really bad run of form, and there's been a bit of press around what's happened there, around renting out hotels and having parties in there. And you got a team that was, yes, they're famous, but they're not necessarily popular. Well, at the minute, you look at how they've gone on for the last 18 months, they have suddenly become in the limelight and popular. So
they're like what Chelsea were 20 years ago,
Yeah, could that be a thing here that's happening around Newcastle? They've suddenly, the vanity's got to them, and they're whilst they're riding the high, having the parties. It's speculation, obviously, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, as well, you've got to remember that if either of you two misbehaved in your job, broke your contract or whatever, you would be disciplined or sacked. And I know we're talking about two completely different things, but you've got to have a certain amount of discipline. And you've got, if training's at 10, turn up at 10. If there's no phones in the dressing room for 3 hours before a game, then that's the rules. And there's got to be that respect. And this is your job, irrespective of whether it's a sport or whether it's fun or whether it's football, whether you enjoy it, whether you don't enjoy it. It's your job, and there's ridiculous amounts of money at stake for Premier League and sponsorship.
Absolutely. I mean, if they, regardless of what you think of those rules, in my line of work, regardless of what I think of the rules that are being put in place or the regime that is being done, whether I agree with it or not, you do it. You don't go against it, because going against it, like it does in, with these footballers, rugby players, whatever, it just causes absolute mayhem and chaos.
I've been fortunate enough to be around changing rooms and play at a level where, you trained on a night and you had to have sliders in the showers, otherwise it was a fine. You couldn't have your phone on you in the changing room, otherwise it was a fine. Match day, not had your phone, so like John says, a certain amount of time beforehand. It's 10, 15, 20 pounds. But even if it's $1,000 for these guys, they're on 300 grand a week.
Yeah,
it literally is. For us, if you're racking up a couple of them a week and it suddenly becomes 50 quid a week, 200 quid a month, and it's a little bit different to $1,000 a week for them. When you're earning 300 grand a week, it is such. If it was 50p for us, people would do it. People would have their phones out. People would not wear sliders in the showers.
But is it a deterrent to threaten to not play them? Or even does Ten Hag, or even any manager, we're not just talking about Manchester United, but does any manager have the option to not play their, say, star midfielder because they are misbehaving? Probably not from a team point of view.
I don't think a player would care either, because regardless whether the player plays or not, he can go an entire season without playing a game. He's going to get his money each week, isn't he? Regardless.
Yeah.
I actually heard the story as to why Roy Keane was kicked out of Manchester United all those years ago, a couple of weeks ago, and it's the first time I've heard it. And James will remember, you used to have. Do you remember they used to have? Was it called Fan Zone or something? When they used to have a fan for each team.
Yeah.
And Man United TV had a similar thing, and they used to do a report on the game that happened, and they used to get a player to give insight on the game back. Well, they lost like 4-0 to like Newcastle, and it was Roy Keane who was given the feedback the following day, and he were like, yeah, he weren't good enough. Yeah, he wasn't good enough. None of these were good enough to be on that pitch in a Manchester United shirt, blah, 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 blah. And he basically hammered them, absolutely hammered them. And then Fergie came in and said, that can't get released. And they're like, why? And I went, well, because Roy Keane said this. Da, da, da. And he's pulled Roy Keane. He's like, you need to stop that from going out. And he's turned around and said, no, because it was true. So Roy Keane's let it go out. And then Fergie has come into the change rooms the next day and said Roy Keane will never play for Manchester United again, and he didn't, and he was the club captain at the time. There is no manager in the Premier League that would do that to their captain now. None.
No, but that is what you need, in my opinion. You either need to encourage a team spirit, or you need to have kind of authoritarianism. And I don't think in today's society, like in any society, whether it's school or work or football or anything, I don't think it'd work. I think people would just laugh it off. I think we live in a world now where if you're sacked, you can get another job.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a really good left foot.
5 minutes, James, round up the football in 2023.
Belting, absolutely belting. Manchester City, as most people expected going into the 22-23 season, were absolutely phenomenal. But without not just Manchester City as well, there's been a few highs and lows. My team, Arsenal, bottling it last year. They seem to be bottling it again this year. You know, the demise of Manchester United, but also the coming good of teams like Brighton and Aston Villa. The points deduction. It's been a roller coaster year this year for men's football and for women's football as well. Like Jordan said earlier on with the Women's World Cup as well. You know, it's been a really interesting year for football, and I think next year we're going to see a lot more upsets in regards to the financial fair play rules. I think it will come back to bite City and Chelsea on the arse. I think your Manchester United are just going to go further and further down, and I can see teams like Villa, Fulham, Brighton starting to come good and actually contending for that top six and making it a bit more interesting up there in the Europeans.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see that. I mean, Fulham have been there before. They lost to Atletico Madrid in the Europa League final
Villarreal.
Years ago. Pardon?
Was it Villarreal?
I can't remember, but I do remember David De Gea was in net, so I think it was Atletico. You know, so Fulham have been there and they've been down the Championship, and then to get back there is fantastic. Villa having a phenomenal year under Unai Emery, so come in and done the right thing. So it'll be nice, like you say, it'll be nice to see. I think things will come back to bite City. I think Liverpool have found a bit of form. The only problem is a couple of injuries, and I think they're out of it. They haven't got much strength in depth, especially in the front few. So I think Arsenal just need to find a bit of form, and they should.
I mean, I watched the Arsenal game today, and I tell you what, Fulham completely deserved that today, as did West Ham the other week against Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
Arsenal, the last two games have been abysmal.
Can't seem to put the ball in back at net.
No, they can have 50, 60 chances, but not get anything. They're just not. It's almost like they're going back in time and trying to play like they did under the early Wenger years, where let's get it in the 18-yard box, and before we even look at having a shot, we must pass it 10 times.
Yeah.
Instead, when the ball lands at your feet at 20, 25 yards out, just have a crack. Yeah, it might go 10 yards over. It might do. But you know what? If you have 10 of them, chances are one of them is going to have be a goal, or at least be on target. Just have a crack. But
yeah,
I don't think not just the Premier League this year has been interesting. I think the lower leagues have as well. The Championship with the promotions of Luton Town and Sheffield United coming back up as well, and Wrexham getting out of the Football League and how well they're doing, along with Stockport County in League Two. Leicester as well, how they're doing so far, as well as Ipswich, and my local team Norwich. They're starting to come good.
Yeah,
I think the lower leagues as well are very interesting, and I think 2024 for me is probably going to be a lower league football year. I'm going to watch more lower league football. Do you
know what? I do watch quite a bit, and So last year you had Stockport and so you had Notts County and Wrexham go up. Stockport the year before, and those three, are running away with League Two at the minute. They've to it's a bit like they've done in Ipswich. They've gone. They're looking at back to back, which will be phenomenal. So especially in those leagues where people can, look at Derby. They're still down in League One. You can very easy to get very caught up in there. So it will be nice to see a few of those teams come good. Doncaster Rovers will be very lucky to be playing in League Two next year, not for the same fate as Wrexham, but it's. Hopefully my club can get out of the Championship. I don't think that'll be our time next year, but we're doing the right things as a club.
I think your team are maybe 2 or 3 seasons away from doing that. I think Blackburn will get there, but I think they're 2 or 3 years away from it. I think
Yeah, we're doing the right things again as a club, not just on the pitch. They're doing more, put more infrastructure around. So fingers crossed. But we'll be back again next week. Where there's always one where we will look back and probably look a little bit more forward, and maybe we'll put in some predictions for the end of seasons for Premier League, for rugby and things like that. So and I'll have first dibs on Max Verstappen to win the Formula One. So.
Do you know what? I'll go against that. I can see the winds of change coming.
Yeah, any other sport, and I'd agree. There's room for jeopardy. I don't think there's any room for jeopardy next year. And I'm a massive fan of Formula One. Jordan is probably more, especially this year, more interested in it than me. I've really not been, but I don't think we'll see anything other than that, will we?
No, I can't see it. But
no. Well, we will catch up next week, and we'll speak again.
Yeah,
take care,
again, guys. Happy New Year.
See you later.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
That's everything for this week. Thank you for listening. Join us again next week, where we'll round up a bit more of the week's sport and look forward to 2024.